नमस्कार दोस्तों, वेलकम टू bizbotany। आज हम पढ़ेंगे डाइकोट स्टेम्स के बारे में। When we take a transverse section of a dicot stem, we get the structures like this. What it consists of usually? Here, the outermost layer of the dicot stem. The outermost layer of the dicot stem, we call it as a epidermis. Epidermis layer. Epi means above. Dermis means skin. The outermost layer of the stem we are calling it as a epidermis. Epidermis may consist of some hairs, epidermal hairs. In case of dicot stem, you can see some trichomes also present. Trichomes are these are the hairs, epidermal hairs. Extended part of the epidermal cells we call it as epidermal hairs, and the trichomes how they are? They are multicellular and branched structures. They are also extended part of the epidermal cells. We are calling them as a trichomes. These epidermis may consist of epidermal hairs, trichomes, as well as some stomata also present. Some plant of dicot show the photosynthesis. In dicot plant stems, you can see a photosynthesis process because of the presence of photosynthetic pigments. For that, we need an exchange of gases. For that purpose, some stomata also present in the epidermal regions. In this region, some stomata too present. Below the epidermis, in between the pericycle and epidermal layers, few layers of cell will be present. This complete part we call it as a cortex layer. The layer of cells which are present between epidermis and this pericycle, we are calling it as a cortex regions, which consist of usually three layers. One which is present exactly below the epidermis. That layer we are calling it as a hypodermis. Hypo means below. Hypo means what? Below. Dermis means skin. Below the epidermis. Below the epidermal layer, we are calling it as a hypodermis, which is made up of parenchyma tissues. Few layers of parenchyma tissues will be present. They will helpful for the mechanical support to the stem. Below the parenchyma or hypodermis, we have a cortical layer which is made up of rounded, thin layered parenchymatous cells. Cortical layer is made up of parenchymatous cells. How they are? They are round, thin walled with clearly visible intercellular spaces. यहाँ पर clearly आपको क्या देखने को मिल रहा है? Intercellular space देखने को मिल रहा है. यहाँ पर भी देखो, दोनों की तरफ यहाँ पर clearly intercellular space देखने को मिल रहा है. Cells कैसा है? Rounded है, thin walled है, with clearly visible intercellular space. उस लेयर को हम क्या बोल रहे हैं? Cortical layer बोल रहे हैं. Cortical layers. The innermost layer of the cortex. The innermost layer of the cortex को हम क्या बोल रहे हैं? Endodermis. Endo means inside. Dermis means inside the dermal tissues. Okay. The innermost layer of the cortex we are calling it as a endodermis. Below the endodermis, we have a semilunar shape. Semilunar बोले तो क्या? Half moon shape. Semilunar. Semi means half, lunar shape. Sclerenchymatous tissues will be present. Sclerenchymatous patches of tissues will be present. These patches of tissues are half moon tissues. We are calling it as a pericycle. Pericycle regions. Pericycle region is present in between the endodermal region and phloem. In between phloem tissues and endodermis, you can see the pericycle. This is a phloem structure, phloem, and this one is a endodermis. Between endodermis and phloem, we have the pericycle tissues. Below pericycles, some vascular bundles will be present. These are the vascular bundles which are arranged in the form of a rings. These are the rings form of arrangement you can see in the stem. It is a special characters of the dicot stems. Ring arrangement of vascular bundle is a special character of a dicot stem. These are the vascular bundles. Vascular bundle means what? The xylem and phloem, if they are combinedly present, we call them as a vascular bundles. In between these two vascular bundles, we have some parenchymatous tissues. This type of parenchymatous tissues will be present. We call them as a medullary rays. They are arranged radially. Radial arrangement of some parenchymatous tissues will be present in between the two vascular bundles. Become medullary rays. We call them as a medullary rays. Okay. Here phloem will be present. Phloem and xylem. In between phloem and xylem, we have a cambium layer. A parenchymatous layer will be present. We call this layer as a cambium layer. This part where below the pericycle we have a phloem. In between phloem and xylem and phloem we have a cambium layer. This part of this complete part we are calling it as a xylem part. Xylem, in that also we have a metaxylem. Metaxylem means secondarily grown xylem, we are calling it as a metaxylem. Protoxylem means primarily grown xylem, we are calling it as a protoxylems. At the center part of the dicot stem, this region, at the center part of the dicot stem, this one is a center part of the dicot stem, which consists of a parenchymatous cells. Thin walled parenchymatous cells will be present. We call that layer as a pith layer. What we are calling? Pith layer. It is usually present at the center regions. How the vascular bundles will be present in the dicot stems? Vascular bundles are, they are conjoint, open and endarch type of protoxylem will be present. Endarch protoxylem. What it means? Protoxylem. Conjoint means what? Conjoint means xylem and phloem are present together. If xylem and phloem are present together, we call it as a conjoint. Vascular bundles are conjoint. Open means in between the xylem and phloem, if we have a cambium layer, we call it as a open type. Open type vascular bundles with a endarch protoxylem. Endarch means protoxylems are present towards the center. This protoxylem layer will be present towards the center. Such type of arrangement of xylem we call it as a endarch type of protoxylem. This is about the dicot stem. Anatomy of a dicot stem. Next is the anatomy of monocot stem. Anatomy of monocot stem. When we take a transverse section of a maize or any monocot plants, we clearly get this type of figures when we observe under the microscopes. Here, what it consists of? What anatomy of monocot stem contains? It contains the outermost layer. We are calling it as a epidermis. Below the epidermis, we have a hypodermal regions, which is made up of a sclerenchyma cells. Sclerenchyma cells will be present in the hypodermis. Inside the hypodermis or below the hypodermis, we have a scattered vascular bundles will be present. Here you can clearly see the scatteredly arranged vascular bundle will be present inside the hypodermal regions. Here also scatteredly arranged vascular bundles are present. These vascular bundles are covered by a sheath which is made up of a sclerenchyma. Same sclerenchyma sheath will be present around the vascular bundles around vascular bundles we have sclerenchyma sheath. In the anatomy of monocot stems, you can clearly see the ground tissues will be present. Clearly visible ground tissues will be present. In between these vascular bundles, we have a ground tissues which are made up of obviously a parenchyma cells. And these how vascular bundles are present in the monocot stem? They are conjoint, closed type of vascular bundles will be present. Conjoint means both xylem and phloems are present together. Such arrangement we call it as a conjoint type of vascular bundles. Closed type means cambium is absent in between xylem and phloems. If cambium is absent in between xylem and phloem, such arrangement of vascular bundles we call it as a closed type of vascular bundles. Here phloem parenchyma cells will be absent. Phloem parenchyma cells will be absent in the monocot stem. Here this phloem of the monocot stem where phloem parenchyma will be absent. There are 4 components will be present in the phloem. In that, this phloem parenchyma will be absent, like phloem parenchyma, phloem fibers. These all are the components of the phloem. In that, this phloem parenchyma is absent. This is something about the monocot and dicot stem. Thank you.